Class is in session, hitting the books on Pub Sports Radio, Monday, August 29th. Ian Cameron, Conor Mac, and we're ready for week one college football. We have no time for intros. We're going to get right to the slate. We've got a bunch of games to talk about. We're starting on Thursday, a great slate of games to get the week started. It's Ball State taking on Tennessee. We've got the Vols 34.5 point home favorite, 68 the total in this one. I think Tennessee is going to have one of the best offenses in the country, top 10, certainly maybe even top 5 this season. Offensive line looks good on paper. Lots of skill position talent. The return of Hendon Hooker at quarterback for the Vols, and that lightning fast, up-tempo offense under head coach Josh Heupel. And we saw how explosive Tennessee was on offense last season. Ball State, very depleted on defense from all indications coming into the new year, and replacing Drew Plitt, a multi-year starter at quarterback. Looks like John Paddock is going to be the guy to do that. So it's going to be a tough ask for Ball State in this road opener for them against Tennessee. For me, I actually have 2 bets on this that I placed already. The Vols team total it's high. It's not for the faint of heart at 49.5, but I honestly think they get into the 50s here. I don't think Ball State is going to really get that many stops against what could be a extremely potent, high-flying, explosive Tennessee offense. And if you look, Ball State was not good defensively, giving up a lot of explosive plays last year. Explosive play rate for them defensively was very poor. That's trouble against Tennessee. So I like the team total for the Vols. The question for me and why I split it up with Vols team total over and full game over is because I'm worried about Ball State's ability to score if this Tennessee defense is as improved as some people seem to think it could be. So for that reason, I'm splitting it up, team total and full game as far as the over is concerned here. Conor Mac, what do you think, Ball State, Tennessee?
Yeah, I'll be quick here. You mentioned it. Hooker back. That Tennessee offense was unbelievable, especially towards the end of the year. They were phenomenal. The only problem here with this number is massive. Yep. It's week one. I think they easily get in the 40s, maybe touch 50. Ball State defense, middle of the pack. And offensively, they shouldn't be able to do much. But I think they'll be able to score. This is the big key. Obviously, just week one against Ball State, but this Tennessee defense, how good will it be? Because it wasn't very good at times because that offense went up and down and they gave up points. It seemed like those games just flew over the total. So total's high, spread's high. This is a wait, watch, and see, but Tennessee should win easily. And I don't mind your team total look. I'm just probably not going to get there, but it should get over there.
Yeah, and keep in mind, obviously, a huge discrepancy in terms of the rosters here going into this game as well. So that's definitely something you want to keep in mind going into this game, that Tennessee, in terms of their recruiting ability, I'm just looking at here, 19th best roster in terms of roster quality. And we mentioned this on the Saturday show. What is this ranking comprised of? It's comprised of returning starters and returning production combined with recruiting rankings, combined with the transfer portal additions. How well did you bring in talent from other programs? 19th in the country for their roster coming into the year. So pretty good stuff out of Tennessee. This is probably as high as they've been with the quality of the roster in a very long time. Contrast that to Ball State on the other side. You're looking at 125 in terms of the roster rankings. So that's a huge, significant gap. And as you'd expect for a game where there's a 34-point favorite here with Tennessee. Jake Kaiser, $10 dono. We thank you very much, my friend. You're always here with us, not just on this show and this sport, but everything we've done, Connor and I especially. We know we always see Jake Kaiser in the chat, so we appreciate you very much. Thanks to everyone already in the chat joining us. MDR24, Dabby Cab, who's done a great job this weekend with the college football live show on Saturday. Preston, Nuke Worker. Make sure you hit the like button. We appreciate it. All right, let's roll along here. Backyard brawl, West Virginia and Pitt. Next up, we've got West Virginia, Pitt rather, 7.5-point home favorites. Total 51 in this game. This is not a game I have a strong opinion on. I think Pittsburgh, I'd be careful saying, you know what, Pittsburgh lost Kenny Pickett, Jordan Addison, some key players on offense. They're going to be much worse this year. Keaton Slovis is the X factor here. We know he comes from USC. We know it was inconsistent. It was to the point where he lost his job there as the starting quarterback. But now a new fresh start, clean slate. And from all indications, Pitt's going to slow it down, and Pitt's going to get back to the old run the football type of offense prior to last year that we saw from Pittsburgh. Pickett's gone. the offensive coordinator, Mark Whipple, who was a proponent of that pass-heavy, up-tempo system last year, he's gone. Now with Cignetti, the new offensive coordinator here at Pitt, it's going to be more, let's get back to what Narduzzi wants all along, is that run the football, play good defense, slow pace, milk the clock, time of possession, that kind of thing. And I think you're going to see that from Pitt. So I understand the move to the under, but the problem is West Virginia, which is kind of looking like they might want to speed up their offense this year. So it's kind of a pace war if you look at it, and a clash of styles going into this game. West Virginia finally, by the way, made it official. Yesterday, JT Daniels will be the starting quarterback, former USC quarterback, former Georgia quarterback. Look, I've seen this movie play out before with other quarterbacks where they're dropping down. You go from USC to Georgia. Now you're dropping down a little bit to West Virginia in terms of, just the class of the program, the class of the football team. You just assume, okay, he's going to a lower level of competition just a little bit. He's going to be great. I remember saying this about Jake Bentley. He went from South Carolina to Utah and then to South Alabama. He never got better. All right. He never got better at quarterback, even when he was stepping down. I saw the same thing from Charlie Brewer. Baylor went to Utah, stunk at Utah. Now we think, wow, Charlie Brewer now going to be good at, I think, Georgia Southern. That's where he is now. I'm not sold. Same thing here. I mean, I got to see Daniels go out there. He's learning a new offense. Can he get the job done? That remains to be seen. So I'm passing the game as of right now, but I do lean a little bit with where this total's gone in terms of the under. What do you think, Connor?
That's what I was looking at this game. I don't love it over the touchdown, the 7.5 here. What are we going to get, with Slovis? You talked about it with Whipple gone, and we saw it in that Nebraska game, and they made a mistake. They just slammed Northwestern the year before over 400 yards. They got away from the run and just started throwing it after that horrible onside kick. But I think they went away with it. That kind of got away from them, so they made a mistake there. But, yeah, we're going to get back to the old Pittsburgh, kind of run it. And, yeah, I wonder what Slovis can do. Obviously comes from SC, huge recruit. No Kenny Pickett. You know what's the biggest key, though? This Pitt defense. This defensive line is stacked. They were the best, I thought, in the ACC last year. They're better this year. When I looked at this game last night when I was going everything, I looked right at the under. I thought that's viable. One thing real quick I touch on, too, these early games, just watch how it plays out. Some of the teams, the bad teams, Charlotte or even Hawaii scored first, and then they didn't do anything else. So it takes it like a feeling out the first quarter of some of these games. So just touch on that a little bit too.
Yeah, no question. All right, we move on to the next one on Thursday night. Central Michigan taking on Oklahoma State. We've got the Cowboys here, 21-point home favorites in Stillwater. Total is gone up just a tad, 59.5. I'm seeing 60s now showing up with the total pretty much across the board. You know what they say, you don't really want to lay points with defenses that you're a little bit, leery of. Well, we know last year, first of all, Oklahoma State's defense was outstanding. It was probably one of the best defenses that Mike Gundy's had since he's been the head coach there. And in fact, I'd say last year, Oklahoma State's defense was better than their offense. And you usually don't say that about Mike Gundy's teams. Usually the other way around. They score a bunch of points, they give up a bunch of points. Last year, that offense actually sputtered. And we're still waiting for Spencer Sanders, who's back for what it feels like is his 8th year here at Oklahoma State, to really show that he can really stretch the field consistently and accurately in the passing game. We just haven't seen that a ton from him the first 2 years. This year, though, that defense that was so awesome last year got Oklahoma State all the way to the Big 12 championship game when they lost that heartbreaker against Baylor. That defense is really rebuilt and depleted. I lost a lot of talent from that defense from last year's team, and this could revert a little bit here in 2022 to the Oklahoma State teams that have to win with scoring a lot of points. And on the flip side, while their defense looks like it's about to take a big step back this year, their offense looks like it should be much improved. And I think Sanders now in his final year, this is kind of like Pickett with Pittsburgh, where he had that great final year. Sanders has the capability to do that. He knows this offense well. And I think you'll see Oklahoma State really have a much better offense, a declining defense. On the flip side, you got Central Michigan, Jim McElwain, of course. He's been here for a few years now. They bring back their starting quarterback, Daniel Richardson. He's coming back. He's very talented. And let's not forget, Central Michigan has a track record in the last 5 or so years of playing Oklahoma State. in non-conference play. Remember, they had a crazy game back in 2016 in Stillwater, and Central Michigan pulled a massive upset against the Mason Rudolph Oklahoma State Cowboys. It was that year, and a huge upset. I believe they played in Mount Pleasant just a couple years after that, and Central Michigan covered that point spread as well. So this could be a dog that hangs around, in my opinion. I'd lean to taking the points with Central here. I think their offense is capable enough. I always say when you got question marks about a team defensively, is that the kind of team you want to lay 3 touchdowns with, especially in the first game of the season? Probably not. So I'm leaning to the dog here, and I like this game over the total as well. Like I said, I think Oklahoma State's going to be a team that goes backward on defense. Sanders in the offense, I think, should be much improved. Looks like that O-line should have a lot more stability this year as well after having issues last year. So I think this could be a higher scoring game between these two teams as well. C-Mac, what are your thoughts here? Chips and Cowboys.
Yeah, this number might just be a little bit too big. You talked about Central Michigan pretty good, 9-4 last year. They bring back Richardson. I worry about their defense, though, in this game. I think Oklahoma State's going to do whatever they want, push them around. And real quick, you talked about Oklahoma State. That defense was phenomenal. 5th in the country, only gave up 16 points. I do think they take a step back, and they're not that good, but I still think they'll be pretty good. So this one I'm not going to have a bet on probably, but yeah, I'm going to stay off, and nothing on the total here either.
All right, let's go to Big Ten, another Big Ten conference opener. I mean, we've seen a couple of these. We obviously saw Northwestern Nebraska last week in Ireland. We're going to see Illinois, Indiana. We'll talk about that in a few minutes on Friday. And here's another Big Ten matchup to get the season started for Penn State and Purdue, with Penn State a 3.5-point road favorite here in West Lafayette. The total currently around 53.5 now. It's dropped a little bit. Some under money coming in. That's an interesting move with the under because, and I'm not saying I disagree with it, but last year, Purdue's defense, and the reason why they had, I think, a much better season is they finally played some defense. You know, the defense was actually pretty solid for Jeff Brom and his Boilermakers last year. So, and when you come into this year with Purdue, that's a unit that loses a lot from that defense last year. So that does concern me a little bit. Certainly, if I'm looking at the under, it concerns me here in this game. Look, there's a lot of people saying that if not Ohio State to win the Big Ten, maybe Penn State can, and maybe even find a way because a lot of people think they are they're in the top 3 on paper in the conference next to Michigan and Ohio State. But I will say this, though. I mean, I've got to see it still from Penn State. I'm not at the point now where, yeah, I'm reading the press clippings. I'm reading the hype. Sean Clifford now probably as experienced a quarterback as anyone in the country with all the years now he's been at Penn State. But yet he's always been that quarterback that can just have a phenomenal game or a phenomenal quarter and then just do absolutely nothing the next game and the next quarter. So let's see how that goes. But no, there's a lot of reasons to be hopeful about what Penn State can do. But I've just seen this movie before with them where, the expectations are heightened and they're not always ready to match those expectations. And don't forget, we've seen Penn State play some of their worst football in multiple seasons under James Franklin early in the year. And then later on, they had to dig themselves out of an early deficit in a disappointing first month of the season. So I think talent-wise, when you match these two up, I definitely think there's a case to be made that Penn State's maybe not just better than Purdue this year, but maybe a lot. But I'm just not ready to lay 3.5. And one thing about Brom here, he always has a good offense when you give him all extra time to prepare, whether it's a bye week, whether it's getting ready for a bowl game, whether it's obviously first game of the season and you're prepping for Penn State all summer. I find he gets the offense going. And Aiden O'Connell returns as the quarterback. He knows the offense well. So this is a game where I'm not involved yet, but I'm actually leaning home dog with Purdue because I need to see it first from Penn State and show that they can live up to all these expectations that people have put on them. And the more this total drops, the more I'm interested in fading that move and looking the other way. So that's where I stand with this one. What do you think, Conor Mac? Big Ten action, Penn State, Purdue.
Yeah, we'll see if Penn State can live up to the hype because I don't think anyone, can beat Ohio State. Wisconsin, maybe. You talk about it here, Clifford's back. It's kind of the same thing. Their problem, defense should be pretty good. Their problem was that offensive line. They gave up a ton of sacks last year. The problem was Purdue's defense, wasn't very good at times. You think of Purdue, their defense be a little bit better. They got to do some shootouts last year. And you talked about O'Connell's back. They got some good receivers, transfers from Iowa. They did lose Bell, one of their
Bell
top
will
receivers.
be a big loss, though. Yeah.
Bell will be a big loss. I think they can hang in. I just thought this would be bigger. I thought this line would be 6.5 or so. So it's a little short, but I lean with Purdue here a little bit.
All right, leaning toward Purdue here as well. That's the way I am, and because I really, really think from a coaching standpoint, getting ready all summer for this first game, I've got more confidence. I got to say it. I've got more confidence in Jeff Brom than I do James Franklin. It's just the way it is. And don't forget, we've seen Penn State come unglued in games under this coach for penalties, and just turnovers have been an issue.
Yeah,
and that's
it's
coaching.
like Frost with Franklin. Yeah,
that's coaching. You can coach that up. That Mike Tomlin podcast he did last month, it's called The Pivot. I watched that interview. He's right. You're seeking comfort. It's the term that stuck with me. You're seeking comfort. He says, when you're saying, turnovers, there's nothing we can do. It's on the players for turning it over. No, you're seeking comfort because your coaching sucks. I love the way he phrased it, Mike Tomlin. You as a coach are seeking comfort. Like, it's not my fault. Players are turning it over, committing penalties. You don't believe it's a reflection of your coaching, which it absolutely is. And I think Scott Frost could heed some of those words after that debacle that we all saw on Saturday against Northwestern. All right, let's move along here. We've got Louisiana Tech now and Missouri. A little non-conference action also on Thursday night. Missouri 19.5 point home favorites, 59 the total in this one. Although I believe it's moved. Yes, it has 60.5, which is not surprising to me because I like this game over the total. When you look at it, Missouri's offense should be pretty damn good this year. I think Missouri really could have an explosive offense. And man, you look at their O-line against the La Tech defensive line. This reminds me of Illinois-Wyoming Part 2. If anyone watched that game Saturday, and I obviously watched it very closely, having Illinois laying the points, there was a size mismatch in the trenches in favor of Illinois. They pushed around Wyoming's defensive front, and Chase Brown ran amok. And Missouri's got that kind of size and just a pedigree edge with their O-line against Louisiana Tech's defensive line, and I think it's going to show up here in this game. Now, I believe Eli Drinkwitz is third year now as the head coach, and that's usually when you like to see teams progress and get better. And Missouri's going to be one of those teams where they're going to be a better football team, an improved football team, but you may not notice it because they're still going to end up getting cannibalized in the SEC because of just how tough it is. But they will be an improved football team, and this is their opportunity, in my opinion, right here. Kind of flex their muscles, get off to a strong start. I think Brady Cook going to be a pretty good quarterback here for Missouri. Of course, their old starter was Connor Bazelak, who's transferred to Indiana. I actually think it's an upgrade. Brady Cook played pretty well when he got the opportunity for Missouri. So that's going to be good for them. Louisiana Tech, of course, the Skip Holtz era is over for them. Of course, he had been there a very long time. So changeover at the coaching position. They bring in Sonny Cumbie as the new head coach here at Louisiana Tech. And as soon as you see that name, and co-OCs, by the way, Jake Brown, who was an assistant under Cumbie at Texas Tech, and Scott Parr, who comes from another Navarro College, another non-FBS football program. But they're going to speed it up. You just know it. As soon as you see the word Sonny Cumbie, you got to think, air raid, think up-tempo offense. That's the way it's been with Sonny Cumbie as an offensive coordinator in past places he's been. So you're going to get up-tempo offense from Louisiana Tech this year. When you look at the defense, though, coming into this year for Louisiana Tech, there are definitely some concerns there a little bit. Again, in terms of the size, the defensive line actually has 4 players back and experience. But experience and 4 starters back, again, when you're totally undersized against Missouri's offensive front, I don't know how it's going to matter. You can have all the experience and all the returning production you want on your defensive line. You're undersized. You're outmanned. You're undermanned against Missouri. So I think that defense will still get pushed around. I like Missouri to put a whip in here on Louisiana Tech too, because they're also looks like going to have a new starting quarterback at the helm. That's problematic. It could be one of those situations where Missouri keeps piling up points because Louisiana Tech's going to play fast, and Missouri plays above average pace as well. So I like the over. And I'm also going to lay the points here with Missouri in this one. I think it's a good opportunity for the Tigers to get off to a good start, feel good about themselves. Louisiana Tech kind of starting from not a huge rebuild, but there's definitely a lot of personnel departures. new coaching staff, new schemes on both sides of the football. Not an optimal situation to be able to go to Columbia, Missouri and hang tough for 4 quarters. So I think if you can still get this below 3 touchdowns, it's worth it to look toward Mizzou here in this game. What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, with Skip Holtz being gone and everything brand new, that's where I kind of pumped the brakes. If he was still there, I think the points here are valuable, and I still think they are. I really I don't know if this moves, if this could get over 3 touchdowns. I'd take La Tech. I'd be on the other side. I want the points here. I do think Missouri does what they want and scores the ball, but that Missouri defense was horrible last year. Both these teams' defense weren't very good. Both ranked around 115. Gave up over 400-something yards a game, 34 points a game. So I think there will be points in this one. So I like the over, and I lean to the points a little bit with La Tech.
Yeah, that total keeps going up because this opened as low as 57. Now it's up to 60. I would say if you like the over, I like it. Conor Mac likes it. I bet it sooner rather than later because that actually could close 62, 63, or maybe even higher, I think, by the time we get to Thursday night. All right, the final game now for Thursday's slate, September the 1st, New Mexico State and Minnesota. We've got the Golden Gophers, 36.5-point home favorites in this game. Total 53.5. So I had my fill of taking New Mexico State, and thank fucking goodness I took them at a better number than what was out there when the game kicked off. Because I said this number is going to only move toward New Mexico State against Nevada. I took it when it was plus 11, and I didn't even get the best number, but I took it at plus 11 and it saved me a push. As they ended up losing by exactly 11 points against Nevada. The next time I see Diego Pavia at quarterback for New Mexico State, it'll be too soon. All right? That guy was beyond bad. I could not believe how inept he was. 9 for 20, 3 interceptions, no touch. I mean, he was a turnover machine. And in fact, New Mexico State statistically outplayed Nevada, but when you're minus 4 in turnovers, you got no chance when you're turning it over that much. So be careful giving Nevada too much credit for that win. New Mexico State on offense was putrid in that game. The quarterback switch in the second half helped it a little bit. That's when they finally got their first touchdown. But, man, that offense looked rough for Jerry Kill and the Aggies. The defense looked better, though. I will say that. The defense actually hung in there for 4 quarters. It looked a lot better than obviously it did last year when they couldn't get any stops. You knew you would expect improvement on defense. They recruited decently there for at least a New Mexico State type of school. Jerry Kill's known for good defenses in the past. So that's the positive, but the offense was horrible in that game. And, I don't trust them to score points here, even though they're getting a huge number. And I get it. It's, they've got a game under their belt. Minnesota doesn't. I'm just not ready to take New Mexico State again, not after what I saw, ineptitude offensively to the extreme against Nevada. So I'm not going to bet this. And keep in mind, Minnesota, they still are probably going to have a huge advantage in the trenches over New Mexico State. They probably just bowl this team over and run the football pretty effectively. And they'll look to do that. It's always been run-first offense here at Minnesota. Tanner Morgan's back, another very experienced quarterback. He's been here for years. So Minnesota should roll, but I'm not going to lay 36.5 points, not that many. I think the under is probably the best way to go, and the under's already taken money here. It's down to 53.5. New Mexico State's not going to score more than 10 points. I think if they even get 10 points, it'll be lucky, and that means Minnesota would have to be in a spot where they'd have to score 45 for this game to go over, and I'm not convinced they will either. I think 38-7, something like that, is probably what you're going to get in this game. So I think the under has some value. What do you think, C-Mac?
Yeah, real quick, shout out to the chat, everyone here. Rants, Bankroll, IC, my guy, Jay Money. It's good to see my man, Don Play, Mike M, Jay Kaiser, obviously with the dono, Dabby Cab, Nuke Worker, my man, good to see you. Preston, Viper MB, what up? Real Deal Prime. Shout out to everyone, hit the like button. Man, that New Mexico State team was so bad. And I don't know, you know what? I don't know if they're that improved on defense because they played a team in
totally rebuilt on offense.
Rebuilt.
Exactly. How much better is the defense? Right.
How much is this defense better? I think Morgan, they just do whatever they want. And Minnesota's defense, I don't know how they're going to score. Like you just said, can they get a touchdown or something? They should just throttle this team. The number's really big. But like you said, they
were playing walk-ons on defense, Nevada, and they still couldn't punch in points and move the ball at times against that. It was shocking.
It was rough to watch. So I'd lean under as well. Minnesota would have to get all the points here. I just don't see them getting more than 10. New Mexico State here. So yeah, I lean under with you.
All right, let's go to Friday. We've got another nice little slate of games on Friday night. Now, these are more weeknight games than we'll see most of the season. It's because it's the first week. They're taking advantage, but still no NFL until next week. So there's a lot more weeknight games. So the Friday slate has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games, including this one, Virginia Tech and Old Dominion. We've got Virginia Tech 8.5-point road favorites, 50 being the total here in this game. Old Dominion was a nice little cash cow for me late in the season last year. I mean, they got red hot after an absolutely terrible start. Believe it or not, I'm seeing some good things from Ricky Ronnie here, the head coach at Old Dominion. He's doing a nice job. There was a horrible program when he took it over. It was one of the worst, and they're starting to improve a little bit. They bring back Hayden Wolf as their starting quarterback, and that's really when the offense got going, when he took over at the quarterback spot for the Monarchs last year. I lean Monarchs here. I mean, they're up for this game. Obviously, it's a big-time type of statement when you get Virginia Tech coming into your building, coming onto your campus to play this game. So I know Old Dominion's fired up, and I need to see Virginia Tech and what the hell they're going to look like before I'm ready to lay 8.5 points with them. This has been a program that's obviously been in some serious decline the last few years. Really, this program hasn't been anywhere back to the standard that was set by Frank Beamer. I mean, the Fuente experience was a disaster. It's just been down times for Virginia Tech here. And to me, still a lot of question marks coming into this particular season as well for them. So, it's just like with so many of these teams that, you're hearing there could be some improvement, but I got to see it before I believe it. It's a tough spot for Brent Pry, the new coach, to be in here coming into this situation for Virginia Tech. So, the defense obviously has really declined the last few years. And look, it looks like they're going to go with Grant Wells, the transfer from Marshall, as their quarterback. In fact, he has been confirmed as the starter. I've seen enough of Grant Wells to know that guy can infuriate the fuck out of you. All right? He can.
Oh, man.
He drive you bonkers. One great drive, and then he'll throw the ball right into coverage, right into the defender's hands, and make just a brutal decision. So I'm not convinced that the Virginia Tech is going to be, rolling here. 8.5-point road favorites with a suspect defense, a new coach and new systems, and a quarterback I flat out think is mediocre at best in Grant Wells. So to me, it's Old Dominion here as a home dog. I think, again, there is a bit of a class issue. We're talking about a Conference USA that's probably the weakest conference. I think the Sun Belt's better than Conference USA now, but I don't trust Virginia Tech. Old D or pass? What do you think, C-Mac?
Yeah, let's talk about the numbers here. This is one where I wanted double digits. I just think at 8.5, it's a little low. I wish this was over 10 because, I look Old Dominion as well. But I still think there's a little difference. But one thing, Old Dominion started playing good football. I mean, we talked how last year at the beginning of the year, this team was at the bottom 5 or 10, and they played extremely well towards the end of the year. The only one problem is Old Dominion's defense. It's 115th in the country. Even Virginia Tech should be able to move the ball on them, and they struggle to run it. Their pass game isn't great. They had a hard time running the football. Now they should here against Old Dominion because their defense isn't great. But watch this one. Be leery of just laying 8.5 with Tech here.
Old Dominion actually, I think, moved to the Sun Belt. Yes, they did. So forgot about that. I forgot there was a few teams that moved to the Sun Belt this year and
Fun Belt.
Fun Belt. And that's actually it's definitely going to be a tougher schedule this year for Old Dominion. There's no question about that with the change.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely keep that in mind. But Hayden Wolf back. They've got 3 starting wide receiver, 4 O-line starters back. There's reason to think I think they could give Virginia Tech a game here. All right, we move on now next to Western Michigan and Michigan State. Usually we get these games in non-conference play. A lot of the times you'll see Michigan State play Western or Eastern or Central Michigan, and we have that here. So Spartans 22-point favorites here, 54 the total, pretty much across the board at this point in time. I could only lay the points. I like Michigan State once again this year. Remember, it was a great revitalized, bounce back season for Mel Tucker last year. One of the big surprises, I think, in the Big Ten, if not all of college football, was how good Michigan State turned out to be last year. A bounce back season for them. They've got Peyton Thorne back in terms of their quarterback. Now, it's concerning that, Kenneth Walker was just such a superstar running back. I mean, he was that good. for Michigan State last year. So losing him is going to be a big hole to fill, massive shoes to fill in terms of replacing that kind of talent at running back. But they bring in Broussard from Colorado. They bring in a transfer from Wisconsin. They've got, again, a great receiver in Reed. They've got a ton of offensive line talent back and starters back. I think this offense could still be very good. And Kenneth Walker, great, but you got a great O-line. So, I think the new faces at running back can go in there and still be able to produce pretty well in the ground game. And that's what Michigan State is going to want to do. They don't want to be a pass-heavy offense. They want to be balanced. They want to run the football and keep Peyton Thorne in some solid down and distance manageable situations. As far as the defense goes, the pass rush could hurt. Both defensive ends are gone. But the interior of the D-line should be pretty good here for Michigan State. I think for more than anything, though, this is a fade of Western Michigan. Ellaby, the quarterback from last year, is gone. There's a lot of they took a big hit in terms of the trenches, both sides of the football, O-line and D-line. That's always a problem when you're starting on the road against a Power 5 team. I think this could get away from Western Michigan. The numbers moved, so this would only be a small bet for me at the current number because this opened below 21, and now it's up to minus 22 for Michigan State. So based on the current number, I'd keep it a small bet, but I ain't interested in this underdog. It would be Sparty or nothing. What do you think here, C-Mac?
This number, though, might be just a little bit too big. This game feels like a blowout.
Yep.
Michigan, like 45-0 or 52-10, or Western's in this game. They're going to come to play when all these schools get to Western Michigan versus Michigan State. So they'll be up for it. And maybe this would be like in some of these schools, like I mentioned, a first half bet or even first quarter. Some of these schools can hang around and then they just get tired and these big schools just beat them up in the second half. So that's where I'm looking. I'm going to dig into Western a little bit as the week goes on here because I think the points might be valuable. Obviously, Michigan State, pretty good defense, 54th last year. They got Peyton Thorne back. They played their best game at the end of the year when they beat Pittsburgh. I thought that was their best offensive performance, and even defensively they were good. So, yeah, this one's I'm going to think about this one, the points here with Western.
All right, Temple and Duke. Next up, we've got Duke 7-point favorites, 51.5 the total. So this is no ringing endorsement for me of Temple, but I took 7 with Temple. I did. I mean, Duke can't be laying 7 against anybody in their situation. I mean, the cupboard is bare. It's an absolutely dismal roster, and Temple's not much better. I get that at all. But we're talking about Duke here, laying 7 points in their opener. Mike Elko could be decent as a coach, but he's just got a lot to work with. They're going to, looks like, start Gunnar Holmberg as the quarterback here at Duke. But you look at the defense, it was just hideous. Every statistical category was just beyond bad for this Duke Blue Devils defense last year. Couldn't stop the run, couldn't stop the pass, gave up way too many big plays, explosive plays, you name it. They ran the gamut of just how not to play defense last year, Duke. Again, the talent, by the way, we're talking about an ACC team. They're 90th in their roster ranking. That's returning production combined with transfer portal rankings combined with recruiting rankings. So that is very porous. For an ACC school to be 90th in the country out of 131 teams in terms of their roster quality coming into the new season, that is absolutely brutal. That's not a team I'm looking to lay 7 points with. And Holmberg, I've seen enough of him at quarterback. Very limited in terms of the downfield passing game with him. You contrast that to Temple, I can say a lot of the same things about Temple that I can say about Duke, but I'm getting 7 with Temple, and I think their defense can only be improved, and I actually think their quarterback's got way more upside. DeJuan Mathis, we forget, he is a Georgia transfer, and actually there were times before he got injured last year for Temple, he played okay. I remember the Memphis game. Remember they pulled that huge upset last year against Memphis? He played very well in that game. He can run around. He's a dual threat. He's very athletic. Again, he comes from, look, Georgia recruited the guy. He's got to have some talent, and he'll be the starting quarterback here for Temple once again this year. So I think it's a quarterback edge for Temple. I think both defenses are probably not going to be great, but you can say the same about the offensive lines for both teams. There's some shakeups there that, are they going to be able to pile up the points either? So that's why I'm back and forth with the total. But to me, I'm not buying Duke as a 7-point favorite over anyone. And at the end of the day, I think Temple could have the edge at quarterback because I think Mathis has way more upside than Holmberg does for the Duke Blue Devils. So I'm looking at Temple here plus 7. Not really best bet material, but I thought the Owls at plus 7 was worth a look. What do you think, C-Mac?
I think that's the lean too. I mean, why would you want to lay a touchdown team with this Duke? I would just wait. This would be game on a favorite. Just watch them play and go on. But this could be ugly. Both teams were 3-9 last year. Temple's kind of really fallen off. The big thing is you mentioned the defenses weren't good, but the offenses are bad. Both, I mean, Temple was horrible. They were like 120th in offense. They averaged 16 points a game. So what's going to give here? Because I lean to the under a little bit in this game, but it's not my favorite look. But yeah, I lean under, and I think the points. I think this could be close and maybe low scoring.
Yeah, I could go either way. I'd say I don't hate the over. I don't hate the under in this game. I'm just sticking to the side because I think Temple could be right in this game, and it wouldn't even shock me if they win it because I just think their quarterback's got way more upside. All right, Illinois, Indiana. Here we go. Another Big Ten opener taking place. We've got Indiana 3-point home favorites here. This is in Bloomington. 146.5 the total in this one. Numbers gone down a little bit on the total. As far as Illinois goes, again, we've got a team that's played a game in Illinois. Indiana playing their first game, and Illinois on a little short week as well. But again, it's very early in the season. I could only still look at Illinois here. I mean, Indiana's got all kinds of issues, in my opinion, coming into this new season. Of course, they bring in Connor Bazelak from Missouri. He's going to be their starting quarterback. Tom Allen's already announced, and he's on the hot seat, by the way. Tom Allen's already announced that Bazelak's going to be the starting quarterback for the Hoosiers. But boy, you're talking about another offense that couldn't get out of their own way last year. That was Indiana. O-line still was horrendous last year. And the defense, which was actually getting better first couple of years under Allen. Remember, they had that great year during the COVID-19 pandemic during the throes of it, and that was the defense took a huge step forward that year. And then last year, it just fell right off a cliff all over again. That Indiana defense, they just couldn't stop anybody. And that is a unit that still has a lot to prove, in my opinion, going into this season. But, you know, I was impressed with, now again, Wyoming was just completely depleted. So you don't want to overreact. That's the one concern I have with liking Illinois a little bit at +3. We're maybe overreacting to just how bad and bleak things could be for Wyoming this year, because Wyoming was inept. I mean, the quarterback was hideous, Peasley. They had no push from the offensive line. They got absolutely beaten up by Illinois' defensive front, and Illinois looked great, but how much of that was just Wyoming horrible in that game's the question. That being said, tough game, slight lean here to Illinois because they're the small dog in this one, because I also think they're the better defense as well. That could make a difference. What do you think, Connor?
I think so too. In the end, the better defense. And yeah, you got to watch it. We all saw Illinois this weekend. You know, people are going to maybe bet them. They become a favorite dog here. But all I know is, what are we going to get out of Indiana? Everything went wrong last year. It just seemed like just nothing could go right. They were one of the worst teams in D1 in penalties. They just shot themselves in the foot all year long. They weren't disciplined. They weren't very good. You know what? They only scored 17 points a game. Their offense was just inept at times. And I don't know how much they're going to do here. I think Illinois' defense should be stout. I lean to the under. And yeah, if I had to look at the side, I look at Illinois as well. But I think points will be a premium here.
All right, last game on Friday, TCU and Colorado up in Boulder. We've got TCU 13.5-point road favorites, 55.5 the total. People that bet TCU early probably are on to something. I mean, Colorado could be this year's worst team in the Pac-12. You know, they really could. I mean, the offense is a little shaky. I mean, I don't want to see Brendan Lewis as their quarterback again because he was horrible last year. I think you got to give JT Shrout the chance. Now, he hasn't announced who the starting quarterback is going to be here at Colorado yet, but we'll have to see if it is indeed Shrout. I would go with him. What we do know about TCU is we know Colorado's defense is going to be hurting as well. You know, they are going to have a tough time stopping pretty good offenses. And it looks like for TCU, they're also undecided at quarterback, but they have two guys that are capable of starting, where I think they could start either guy this season and stay. We could be a pretty good offense with them. Chandler Morris and, of course, Max Duggan, who's been there for years. So I think they're okay, and especially in a matchup like this where Colorado's defense could be really problematic. But like I said with TCU, they've got a brand new offense in terms of the system. It's going to be a lot more up-tempo this year. They're going to crank up the pace. That's exactly what we expect. Sonny Dykes, the new head coach. He brings his offensive coordinator, Garrett Riley, with him from SMU. And we know those SMU offenses, fast-paced, always a top, I would say 25, top 30 team in plays per game and pace, and a lot faster than what TCU was last year. So a huge, huge pace increase for the TCU offense, and that has me looking at the over here. I'm not involved in the side. I don't want Colorado, so I guess I lean TCU, but I like the over more than anything here. I think TCU will put up a big number. They're going to play a lot faster this year. And Colorado on the other side, the one thing about TCU is there's some shakeup on the defensive side of the football this year. And to be honest with you, that's one thing about the Gary Patterson years at TCU. Defense was good for many of those years, especially earlier. Sonny Dykes
not the last few.
Not the last few. And Sonny Dykes has never been known to have a team with a very good defense. I mean, you go back all along Sonny Dykes' resume. When's that guy ever fielded a good defense or an above-average defense? I don't remember seeing one. So I think at home Colorado can score at least a little bit. So I like the over. What do you think here, C-Mac?
Yeah, I'd watch this one. I know a lot of people think, obviously Colorado's not going to be very good, but I don't know about TCU. Double digits on the road in Boulder. That could be interesting, especially in week one, because all these kids come out fired up. I think they can hold. TCU's defense was just so bad. That's what I want to get to. You mentioned just over 33 points. They were an over machine. They cashed for me, especially towards the end of the year. But yeah, this will be interesting. Can Colorado score? Because their offense was just putrid. But can they score on this TCU defense that I don't think is really any better? So I'd be leery of laying the favorite here with TCU on the road here in week one.
All right, let's go to Saturday. Several marquee games that we have circled to talk about for Saturday's card here on this week's edition of Hitting the Books. Again, hit the like button. We thank everybody for joining us here on Pub Sports Radio. Let's start with a great game. It's one of the games I'm actually most looking forward to on Saturday. The Utah Utes and the Florida Gators. Utah 3-point, now up to 3. It's true. They're up to 3-point road favorites here in Florida in Gainesville. 51 the total. I'm buying in. I'm buying in that the Pac-12 team is favored on the road for a reason against the SEC team. I like Utah. I think they go in there and they can win this game. And look, they made a good hire, Florida, with Billy Napier. Great run at Louisiana with the Ragin' Cajuns for many years. But I still think there's a big quarterback advantage in favor of Utah. Cameron Rising is the real deal. He played great last year. He went toe-to-toe. Do you know how difficult it is to go toe-to-toe offensively with Ohio State? And that's exactly what Cam Rising and Utah did in the Rose Bowl last year. They matched them point for point against that explosive Ohio State offense that could be the best offense in the country this year with Stroud and the great receiving core, which is still going to be good this year, even after losing Wilson and Olave. They've got Smith and Jigba and a bunch of guys back. The O-line stacked. The running back, Travion Henderson's outstanding. And Utah went point for point with them. I think they could beat Florida. Florida's going to take time, I think, because there's some changeover. There's new coaches. I still don't trust the quarterback situation there. They've not had great quarterback play, Florida, the last couple of years. That worries me as well. And look, Utah is one of those teams that I think in the trenches, that's where they've always been strong under Whittingham. They can handle the Florida offensive line. They can handle the Florida defensive line on both sides of the football, this Utah team, because of just how well Kyle Whittingham coaches up in the trenches, coaches up his O-line and his D-line as well as any coach in the country. So I think they'll be able to handle it. And again, Anthony Richardson's going to have to show it to me as far as I'm concerned at quarterback for Florida. So would I lay more than 3? No, but as long as you can get -3 or better, I think Utah wins. What do you think, C-Mac?
Yeah, maybe they can get away with it here in a week one type scenario because, this game. But the problem is Utah, this is a team year in, year out, take them at Salt Lake at home, fade them on the road. Their losses at BYU, at San Diego State, at Oregon State. I'm sure that they're so hyped for this week one. That's why they might win this one. It's huge for them. But yeah, you're right. Richardson for Florida. It's a work in progress, some other stuff, but they got good pieces. D-line, even their O-line. So I'd hate to say it. I'm the biggest Utah fan. I'd be on Florida here. Give me the dog at home in the Swamp.
All right, like in Florida will be much improved with they made a great hire in Napier. I just think for them there's a little more instability compared to like Utah's firmly entrenched, obviously with Whittingham. There's no question.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of experience back where Florida may not be up to the same, level that Utah is. Utah's ready to go. They've got lots of players back. Not that Florida doesn't, but they're learning a new system a little bit. Coaches are brand new. So we'll have to see if that maybe impacts them negatively for this huge non-conference game to begin the season. All right, Notre Dame, Ohio State. It's been a one-way freight train of money coming in on Ohio State, and it's hard to argue with any of it because Notre Dame is already ravaged by some injuries in camp, both sides of the ball. Now you got to go to Columbus, face Ohio State, 17.5-point favorites, 58.5, 59 the total. It's at the point now where if you like Ohio State, I'd probably try to go with a team total over instead, or maybe the full game over and hope that Notre Dame can contribute. I mean, unfortunately, look, Marcus Freeman, the new head coach, of course, here at Notre Dame, he's a defensive guy, but man, this defense is already beaten up with a few injuries that they've suffered here in camp. I'm worried a little bit about that coming into this, especially this game when you're playing what could be the best offense, certainly one of in the entire country. And now you got to go with Tyler Buckner, who's going to be getting his first snaps as the full-time starting quarterback. He got some playing time last year because they put him in for a few series and a few plays, and they put Jack Cohn, who's, of course, gone now, but they bring Jack Cohn back in. So it's a tall order for Notre. I think Notre Dame, this number is probably too high, all things considered, if Notre Dame was healthier than they are, but they're not. And that, especially on defense, and that's what really concerns me here about this matchup. You got to play this dynamic offensive line. C.J. Stroud, who's going to be a Heisman contender. Smith and Jigba could be one of the better receivers in the country. Travion Henderson, the run. I mean, they're stacked. They're loaded. Yeah. They're going to be able to put up points in bunches all season long. So I'm definitely thinking could be a lot to ask for Notre Dame. So at this point, I still lean Ohio State, but the number's getting up there. I think I would look more toward team total over now than the number, the spread at 17.5. What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, the biggest key here, I think, is for Ohio State this year is the defense. They have all the prospects. They're stacked, and they're stacked on offense, receiver. It's just unbelievable. But that defense got shredded by plenty of teams last year, even Utah, like we mentioned in the Rose Bowl. So hopefully they're a lot better on that side of the ball. If they're not, Notre Dame can stay within this number, I think. I don't know here about week one. I want to take these points with Notre Dame. I just don't know if I'd get there. I think their defense will be okay, but will they stop Ohio State? I don't think so. And I'd lean towards the over in this one. Everything from I saw last year, and that offense, will be backfiring for Ohio State.
Yeah, I think Ohio State could get 40s here. They really could. And then all you'd need is about 17 to 20 from Notre Dame. There's the over right there. NC State, East Carolina. NC State, 11-point road favorites, 55 the total. I don't really have a lot on this game, but it's an interesting game because I love NC State. I am not going to end up betting against them at any time. I think they're that good. They're stacked on defense. They were good on defense last year. And now they bring Devin Riley back, the quarterback here for them. He's back again at the quarterback spot. I mean, there's a lot to like here with Devin Leary, I should say, back at the quarterback spot. But yeah, there's a lot to like here with this NC State team. Good in the trenches. Secondary should be pretty good. The only thing holding me back is I know East Carolina's a feisty team. Their defense improved last year. Mike Houston's actually done a nice job. They've slowly, incrementally improved every year. But at the end of the day, if they're really going to make a huge jump, East Carolina, Holton Ahlers he's been here forever, has got to be more consistent too. Has some great games, some great moments, and then sometimes falls flat. Yeah, that's sometimes what he can be. So definitely we'll have to look toward that. So pass on this game. Really, this is not a game I have a bet on right now. I think NC State taking the money. Initially, I could see it, but now that it's up to 11, I'd probably lay off. I'd lean Wolfpack, though. What do you think?
Yeah, massive hopes here for NC State. Everyone seems to love them this year, and they should be great. You mentioned Leary's back. The offense should be good, and that defense was really good last year. I think it gets better. 19 points a game was really, really good. You talked about Ahlers. I love this team as a dog, East Carolina. I like both these teams, like you mentioned, so it's tough here in week one. I wish I was catching a little more than 10, and maybe this moves higher than 11. Ahlers, I mean, he can make some unreal game, plays, and as a dog, I just love this team. I don't know if I get there this week though. like you mentioned. I want to. I'm gonna look at this one a lot of different ways if I'm gonna make a play on it. So yeah, right now it's just a pass.
All right, Bowling Green, UCLA. Next up here, we've got UCLA, huge favorites as you'd expect here, 24-point favorites, 57.5 the total. Be careful, though. And a ton of money's come in on Bowling Green. I think now that it's down to 24, you've missed the value if you like Bowling Green. But Bowling Green could be one of the most improved teams in the country this year. I mean, their offense, as good as it's been under Scott Loeffler, the current head coach, the defense should be a little better, and that's obviously where they've had their issues. They're going to have a tough time defensively, though, here against UCLA because they've got a ton back on offense. DTR back at quarterback. They're firmly entrenched in Chip Kelly's system, so it's going to be a tough ask defensively. But Matt McDonald back at quarterback, that offense will be improved a little bit. I think this game goes over the number. That's what I like here more than anything. UCLA obviously going to – looks like they're going to get back to the Chip Kelly level of pace we saw in his Oregon days because he feels that good about the offense this year. As he should, based on everyone that's back. So I would look over the total in this game more than anything. I like Bowling Green when it was 31.5 a little bit, but 24 now, man, that's a huge move. What do you think, C-Mac?
Yeah, this is one where everyone had circled where it was too high, and now it's come down. I mean, if you see it, 23.5, that's maybe it. Here at 24 is about it. Bowling Green, though, took a step forward. You talked about 4-8 last year, had a surprising games. Matt McDonald played a little bit better because he's the big question mark on that offense. And he was a bit better last year. And that defense in the first half of the year was very, very good. And then the second half, they started to get just shredded again. And you talk about UCLA has one of the easiest schedules out there, does UCLA. This team could win 9 games this year. Thompson should do what they want in this game, but I'd be leery of laying over the 3 touchdowns here. And I agree with you. I'd lean over.
All right, next up, Boise State and Oregon State. We've got the Beavers here in Corvallis, 3-point favorites, 57 the total in this one. My lean is Oregon State, honestly, but the fear is Boise could be pretty good. Boise could be really good this year, potentially. Now, we know Boise, it's not been back to the level that they were at under Chris Peterson a very long time ago. This actually could be still, though, one of the better Boise teams in recent years. And because when you look at this roster coming into the year for Andy Avalos, they bring back Hank Bachmeier, who should have his best year at quarterback. The O-line is loaded with experience, tons of returning production back all over the defense. They've got playmakers, and that's significant. And the defense was pretty good last year for Boise, and they bring back a lot of the talent from last year, 7th in terms of returning production in the country on defense. So that defense is going to be really good. I think they're going to be really good, but I love what Jonathan Smith has done at Oregon State. He's done a great coaching job here. He's resuscitated a program that was in shambles. What a season they had last year to get where they got. And these are just 2 teams I'd rather bet on, but I would lean Oregon State at home, just laying 3. What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, I do too. But I don't know. I think this game should be more of a pick 'em. People now are more high on Oregon State a little bit, and that's where they play their best football is at home. And Boise's just, they haven't been the same Boise team the last 3 or 4 years. I believe they went 7-5 last year. And I remember that last game, San Diego State threw them around. But you mentioned they should be able to move the ball. Well, I don't know what they're going to do defensively. This one's a tough one. And I'm high on Oregon State, and I love them at home. I just wish this was a pick 'em. This one should be a close game. I'm going to probably stay off in the end.
Keep in mind, they bring back a lot on defense as well, Oregon State. 22nd in terms of returning production on defense. And that was a much improved defense last year as well.
That offense could move it. They could move the ball. Yeah,
they could. They got some explosiveness. Chance Nolan was capable at the quarterback spot. They do lose B.J. Baylor. That was a huge part of that offense, him running the football. But I think the new running back, again, the O-line is pretty good. 4 returning starters back, almost 400 career snaps returning for Oregon State on the O-line. So whoever the running back is, he should still be able to run pretty effectively with how good the O-line is coming back for them. All right, next up, we've got Oregon and Georgia, one of the big-time matchups taking place on Saturday. Georgia 17-point favorites here in this one. The total currently at around 52.5, 50. The total's actually gone up, which is a bit surprising. I don't agree with it. I mean, Oregon brings in Dan Lanning as their new head coach, Kirby Smart, disciple, a guy that worked under Kirby Smart as the DC at Georgia. Well, he comes into this game. He knows that Georgia defense very well. Maybe it does help Oregon offensively, you could say, but I'm reading some scary things from Oregon that Bo Nix hasn't firmly grasped the starting job yet. And I'm thinking to myself, how bad could this be then for Bo Nix, that he thought he was going to Oregon, slam dunk, he was going to be the guy at quarterback, and yet he hasn't even been confirmed as the starter. The other guy is right there neck and neck with him to be the starting quarterback. So that's concerning, especially, look, Georgia's defense, we know they lost a shit ton of that great elite talent on defense that all went to the NFL this past offseason, but they're still going to bring in 4 or 5-star players to replace all those guys.
Oh, yeah.
And it's still going to be a very strong defense. And I'm worried some of the things I'm reading from Oregon's fall camp about this offense. So that worries me. On the flip side, look, Oregon's going to have a pretty good defense. I think this could, because first of all, they got a defensive guy as their head coach. He's probably going to coach up a good defense. And there's a lot of talent on that defense for Oregon coming into this year. So I think this could be the best Oregon Duck defense that we've seen in a few years coming into this season. A defense that, yes, it struggled last year, but again, that defense is stacked, even with Thibodeau gone to the NFL. The linebacking core is loaded. The secondary should be good. 5 defensive linemen that had combined over 300 snaps last year each. So that's a loaded defensive line for Oregon. And I think they could match up well enough against Georgia's offensive line in the trenches. So to me, the defenses are the superior unit on both sides. So I disagree with the total move. I think we could stay under 53.5 here. What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, I don't know about this total here. I think one thing, they might be improved, but I don't think the Ducks last year 75th defense was very good. I mean, I watched them all year long, and hopefully they improve, because teams like Oregon State, especially when they got in Texas, they just got gashed. And I only wonder what Georgia will do here in week 1. And I think Georgia's defense is for real, even with losing all those guys, like their second guys, and even the young kids coming up will step right in and play well. I just think this number's a little bit big, because I'm not a huge Oregon backer this year. Like you talked about, the quarterback position in question. And they just haven't been the same offensively. Last year, Brown just was erratic. He wasn't a great passer. So this one's interesting. I think this is a sit back and watch type game. If it moves more, I don't know if I can get there with the Ducks, with these points.
All right, Memphis and Mississippi State now. As we continue along here, we've got Mississippi State, looks like 15-point favorites right now in Starkville, 56 the total in this one. I certainly lean over now with the total in this game. And I do lean Mississippi State, because I think this could be a pretty damn good team for Mike Leach this year. Will Rogers back at quarterback. Offense should be extremely potent. And now they've figured it out, right? This is his 3rd year now, Mike Leach. This is usually when you see his offenses, his air raid offenses really take off, have a monster year, especially with a guy that's been in this offense now every year with Leach. Will Rogers has been here every year with Leach. He should be able to roll with this offense. And Memphis is not a great defensive team to begin with. So I could only look at the favorite, but here's the issue. This line was like -8 at one point in the spring, and it's almost double that now with 15.5. I think that's a huge move. You lost a lot of value, but I can't trust Memphis here in this one. So in this case here, I still lean to the favorite, but more than anything, I'm kind of looking more toward points being scored. I'll be honest, though, I do want to fade Memphis this year. I think this program's kind of going in the wrong direction under a Silverfield, the head coach. He's kind of on the hot seat. Has Memphis gotten better under Silverfield? I don't think they have. I think they've gone down. I think they've declined the last couple of seasons. So I definitely lean favorite Mississippi State. It's just a question of, do I want to bet a bad number? Probably not. What do you think, C-Mac?
That's what I think is here. I think just the numbers gone bad, and like we bet numbers here. This is it. And yeah, I think Memphis takes a step back. This is always a tricky game. They seem to always play tough, though, in these games. That's why I'd be leery of a 2-touchdown spread here. Mississippi State, solid. Offensively, we're very good. Defensively, pretty good. 71st in the country. and I'm high on this team, and so is a lot of people, and that's why this number moved, and people are a little bit low on Memphis, which was average at best last year. Their defense isn't great, but I think this might be too many here. So I'm probably going to stay off, but I'd lean Memphis if I had to here.
All right, Cincinnati, Arkansas. This should be a great matchup here. We've got Arkansas 6-point home favorites, 51.5 the total. How about the money coming in on Cincy? This was 7.5. It's down to 6. And there's a part of me that says Cincinnati's not going to drop off like some people think. First of all, Luke Fickell still recruits better than anybody in the AAC. They're still going to, I think, contend to win that conference, even with all Sauce Gardner and all the great Kobe Bryant, all the great defensive players, especially in the secondary they lost. But I think the defensive line is still pretty solid here, which is important when you're going to play a good offensive line like Arkansas. They might be able to hang in there in the trenches. This is just two teams I'd rather bet on than bet against. So I'm just going to be watching this game as a fan. I'm excited for it. I'm looking for it. I think it's a great matchup. I just rather bet on both of these teams than bet against them. And KJ Jefferson worked on his passing game in the offseason, saying, look, we're a good running team. We got a good O-line. I've been a pretty decent throwing quarterback, but I know I can get better. And we'll see if all that work he's put in the offseason pays off. Because if it does, he might be able to pick on, a secondary that's got a lot of new faces in it for Cincinnati. But not a game I'm going to be involved in, but a great game to watch. Do you have anything lean-wise here, C-Mac, Cincy, and Arkansas?
No, I wish this was under the touchdown, kind of here. I'd go with Arkansas. I think Jefferson will be good. I think his passing only gets better. I think the Razorbacks defense will be pretty good as well, which kind of, once they got in the SEC play, they kind of got into some shootouts. But early on, that defense was very good last year. It started to deal with injuries, and as every team as the season goes on, Cincy will be still really good. This is a huge game for them. This could be very tight and a good one. I think this is a watch as well for me. I don't think I'm going to get involved betting it. And the total is kind of interesting. Cincy's defense come to play, this is definitely an under, and it's tight. Or will there be points here early? So,
yeah, I mean, I'm torn here, side and total. But you're right. Now that it's below 7, I think you've got a little value now in Arkansas. You do,
yeah.
As Andrew Carr says, Andrew Arkansas spot Cincy huge losses, definitely in the secondary.
Oh yeah.
But it's a fact, and look, it's all going to come down to whether this passing game for Arkansas is ready to improve and take that next step. Because let's be honest, they were a run-first offense. That's really where they did most of their offensive damage last year. Jefferson, we know he can run. He's athletic. Does he have that better touch, better downfield, stretch the field, vertical passing game accuracy? Has that improved for KJ Jefferson? We're going to find out here on Saturday for sure against Cincy. All right, this is the last
place to play. Real quick, too. It's just tough. Yeah, in Arkansas.
So we got one more Saturday game, and then we'll do the Florida State LSU, Clemson, Georgia Tech is a Monday Labor Day game, and then we'll be wrapping it up. But Houston, UTSA, we've got right now Houston 4-point road favorites, 61.5, 62 the total. I mean, Houston could be very good. We talked about how Cincinnati could still win the AAC. Houston certainly could. On offense, they are going to be very tough to stop. Clayton Tune is back at the quarterback spot this year for the Houston Cougars. They've got a great offensive line. They've got definitely a lot of skill position talent. There is a lot to like here in terms of what this Houston team is going to be capable of on the offensive side of the football this year. Lots of wide receiver weapons, very dynamic passing game, good O-line. The defense, though, which last year was very good, they bring back a lot, and so that's a unit that should be pretty strong as well for Houston with 10 seniors back on the D. UTSA, obviously there's people thinking they could maybe take a step back here. We know Jose Bouquet is obviously going to be betting UTSA regardless of the situation here, but I'm pumping the brakes on taking UTSA here because I think in particular defensively they're going to be hurting a bit more. That's where they suffered a lot more of their attrition. They do lose Sincere McCormick, the great running back for them, but their O-line's still good. Frank Harris, I think, really improved his passing last year, kind of like KJ is trying to do with Arkansas. And I think their offense is still going to be pretty solid. So I'm actually leaning toward this game being points, especially Houston's going to try to play a little bit faster this year from all indications on offense pace-wise. So I do think this game's got the chance to go over the total. That's the stance I like most here with the Cougs and the Roadrunners. What do you think, C-Mac?
I like Houston, but not on the road. You're laying, these points. I can't do it. here. UTSA should be pretty good. Their defense was a bend and break style. 50th in the country. They could get gashed at time, but they really in the red zone played well. And I think, the offense will be pretty good. They'll continue to run the rock. No McCormick, like you mentioned, but I like Houston, but maybe not here. And watch out here in week 1.
Yeah, definitely. But when you look at it, 13th in terms of offensive production returning for UTSA, but only 69th in terms of returning production on defense. That's where the big departures and personnel losses happen for UTSA on defense. And I think Houston might be able to pick on that a little bit. So I think we'll see points, like I say, like a 34-31 wouldn't surprise me here.
Where is this being played then? What's this guy? It's in, I thought it was at...
That's actually a very good question because they've got UTSA listed as the
ICE
home
is
team.
in the Alamo Dome, San Antonio. That's what I see.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought it's just a straight home game for the Roadrunners here. I assumed that would be the case, and I think you're right. I think it is going to be.
He just means
there.
It's neutral because it's Houston. There'll be tons of fans there, I think. Okay.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's at the Alamo Dome. Of course, Houston Cougar fans will travel very well, as we know. Even I know from being in San Antonio, not a long trip to get from Houston to San Antonio in Texas. All right, Sunday. Yes, we do have Sunday night college football because the NFL has not gotten started yet this season. So they always put a Sunday night game on the schedule that first week of the season, and it's Florida State LSU. And we've got LSU 3-point favorites, 51 being the total here in this 51.5 actually across the board. I'm kind of drinking the Florida State Kool-Aid in this game and in general. I actually think this is going to be an improved program this year. It better be because I know there's a lot of pressure on Mike Norvell now coming into this season for the Florida State Seminoles. But Jordan Travis returns at the quarterback spot. 4 starting offensive linemen are back. They really did a good job in the transfer portal with upgrading the skill position talent, which I think was lacking a little bit the last few years. And when you look at the defense, C-Mac, they improved last year. I was very impressed with the improvement in Florida State's defense. Remember, they were getting gashed on defense a couple years ago. That defense really did improve last year for Florida State, and I think it could be a sign of things to come for the Florida State defense coming into this year. They could have a pretty solid group on that side of the football. Then on the flip side, we've got the shocking turn of events in the offseason. Brian Kelly bolting from Notre Dame, getting the money, putting on a fake Southern accent, Louisiana accent while he's at it, joining LSU as the head coach there. And look, we know he's got a great overall record as a head coach, but again, I'm not sure this is going to be an immediate going to get this program where LSU fans want it to be. Obviously, things have fallen apart for LSU since the championship year with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and company. They've had 2 horrendous underachieving seasons since then. But I think it's going to take Brian Kelly a little bit of time. I think it's unfair to say, you know what, Brian Kelly's here. This is going to be an SEC East contender and ready to contend just like that. I think you're going to see some growing pains early on for LSU here, or SEC West, I should say, contender. But, you look at it, the quarterback battle is on for them in terms of Brennan. Well, he transferred out, but Nussmeier, Daniels, uncertain on what's going to go there. The offensive line, it is an area of concern. They don't have the returning experience that other teams do along the offensive line. That's something that really you worry about a little bit. The secondary, totally rebuilt. And, of course, part of that is Derek Stingley, among others, no longer being here at LSU. So that pass defense could get picked on. And, look, Jordan Travis now in that offense, they've got some weapons. So I'm looking at this as Florida State for me. As long as this state, like I actually grabbed a 3.5, even at 3. I mean, I just think you got a team that's now, Norvell and his staff have been there for years. You've got a lot of returning experience. There's a lot of new faces at LSU. There's parts of this team that I've got concerns about the O-line. I've got concerns about the secondary for LSU in this game. I think there's enough question marks that Florida State, even on the road here in Baton Rouge, they could go in here and win this football game, in my opinion. So definitely looking at the Noles or nothing in this one. What do you think, C-Mac?
Yeah, Florida State, you talk about the experience of quarterback. They got tons of guys who can run it. This is interesting because I'm not high on LSU either. They're going to have growing pains with Kelly. This is a pretty good statement game because the thing is I'm still not high on Florida State. I just don't think they're anything great either. And Newkirker put I can't lay chalk with LSU. But this is short chalk. I think they can win this game here at home. Even with Kelly's fake Southern accent, the victory.
Yeah, I mean, it's really dependent upon how good can Brian Kelly coach him up and get him ready for the start of the season. All right, we're going to last game here, Labor Day, Monday, Clemson, Georgia Tech, Clemson 21.5 point road favorites, 49. I laid it with Clemson. I think this is an annihilation. Georgia Tech, I like them under their win total. Their offense is obviously, the offensive line's got issues. Jeff Sims is obviously an experienced quarterback, but it's not exactly a guy that's taken leaps and bounds improvement. The defense just doesn't look very good. And Clemson's defense, I think this year is going to be spectacular. And look, the defense held them in every game they played last year because the offense sputtered. I actually think the offense gets much better this year. And I think, look, Dabo Swinney believes, he said it on record multiple times throughout the spring and the summer, that he believes in DJ Uiagalelei. That was just a blip on the radar for him last year, that he didn't play well, that he can bounce back, be the guy that went into Notre Dame 2 years ago when Lawrence was hurt and shredded that Notre Dame defense. Will we get that DJU this year? That's what Dabo thinks. And if we do see anything close to that type of offense, they're going to throttle Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech's just in shambles as a program. They haven't gotten better under Jeff Collins. It wouldn't surprise me if he's out as head coach of Georgia Tech after this year. So I think this could get ugly. I think Clemson rolls. I laid the big wood here. What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, I'm not rushing to back Georgia Tech. And you know what? They had a few great games like last year. And then the turnovers and Sims, he's unreal at turning the ball over. He's so athletic, but it's ugly to watch. I'm going to watch this one, though. I think you might be right. Clemson's defense was phenomenal, but they struggled to score. But on this Georgia Tech defense, they should be able to. But I'm going to watch that. I'm not going to go lay the chalk here with Clemson, but they should win this game. But, yeah, big number here.
No doubt, big number indeed. All right, that is your look at the college football card. Your first look at college football for the upcoming week, as we always do every Monday right here on Hitting the Books on Pub Sports Radio. Hit the like button. We appreciate that. We'll get our sponsors in, Manscaped, Southtown 101, and then we'll be back to wrap it up. Southtown 101, when you're in San Antonio, make sure you stop in there. Great food, drinks, live music, DJs, karaoke. Manscaped, promo code PubSports. Check it out. All the great products to keep yourself trim. All you guys out there, manscaped.com, promo code PubSports. That's a wrap. Another great show, Conor Mac. Looking forward to a big week of college football. And make sure you stay tuned. It's Sharpie and Prize Picks, MLB show coming up right after this. So get there. Get some strikeout prop winners. The guy's crushing it. Sharpie with the strikeout props. So make sure you check those out. Sharpie, Prize Picks, MLB show coming up next year on Pub Sports Radio. That's a wrap. Another Hitting the Books in class dismissed. For Conor Mac, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great week. Great. And we'll be back Saturday. Remember, 11 a.m. Eastern. We're back for another edition of the College Football Pub Hub. 10 a.m. Eastern, I should say, Saturday morning right here on Pub Sports Radio. We'll see you then.